Okay, so the sound of this video is, at certain points, a bit f***y because some of the audio got corrupted. Seems like it's happening a bit in this marathon, and I do apologize for that, but the show must go on.
Read the disclaimer! On the other one, you bastard!
Brought to you by supporters who probably have better taste than this schmuck.
Titan Masters, Prime Masters, Micromasters, Battlemasters. Until the core class in Kingdom, the Masters were small scale. That's what Hasbro wanted to push for their budget lineup, and a lot of people were a bit disappointed by that. Prior to the Battlemasters releasing in Siege, we had just gotten the Prime Masters, the most boring small scale figures in history. Bad by any means. Not bad figures in their own right, but just released over and over again with no variation. Going into the Battlemasters, I was concerned it would be much of the same. We've got Target Masters, and Target Masters, and Target Masters. I mean, there's not much variety there. Fortunately though, it wasn't all the same. There were a few sparks of creativity thrown throughout. Not as much as I would have liked, but it's definitely something that's actually worth taking a look at this time. So, is the battle Hasbro's, or is it ours? That analogy doesn't make any sense. Just start the review. So a bit of housekeeping first. I'm not going to be discussing the regular Target Master type Battle Masters. I've already covered this body type in the Grapple Inferno and Artfire review, so to cover it here as well would be a bit pointless since they're all pretty much the same. Not to say any of them are bad, they're just kind of all just okay. And to bog down this review with reviews of every single one would just be pointless. I'm also not going to be doing any of the exclusive redecos that came with larger bots. Yes, some of them are better than the originals. For example, this version of Lionizer is way better than the original retail version, but it just makes things confusing since I don't own all of them. I do own all of the retail ones though, so I can pretty much stick with that. In essence, I'm going to be covering Lionizer, Taraxodon, Smashdown, and Rung. Pretty much because these are the most unique out of the set, and the ones that deserve reviewing the most. I'm actually going to start off in robot mode for these because it's a bit more interesting to talk about, and the weapons don't need any sizing or anything like that, they just kind of get shown with the regular system, whereas this is a bit more unique. Lionizer is actually pretty good in this mode. Not amazing, but pretty good. Admittedly, the deco is a bit lackluster, like you do have a bit of paint in the eyes and also a tiny bit on the sword here, but most of it is just bare plastic. They haven't put a lot of effort into this one, and they haven't gone for any unique colors either, so what you see is really the epitome of blandness when it comes to colors. But he is still a fun little doggo, although I guess it's supposed to be a lion, but he looks more like a dog. And that's okay, because he can wag his tail up and down like that if you so desire. And yes, you can pet the dog. I'm insisting this is a dog. Ravage may not be a dog, but this totally is. You're supposed to have the sword over the top like that, and I'm not really sure why. It's a bit weird. Why would you not just have it as a tail? Maybe they wanted it to fold in much more earlier, but then they had to fit in the gimmick with the blast effects back there. I don't know, but either way, it's fine. Nothing special, but at least you do get some nice detail on the legs here. Torso is a bit haphazard, and head isn't anything to write home about, but the legs are pretty well detailed. They're also articulated with ball joints like that, and the head moves up and down. Now, if we're going for sizing, he is 5 centimeters long, about 2.8 centimeters wide, and 5 centimeters tall. Now, moving on to our second contestant, we have Taraxodon, and I do not like this figure. I know a lot of people really dig this, but it just really rubs me the wrong way. I suppose the head is pretty neat. They've got a lot of lovely sculpting there and some lovely subtle paint cues. With the red bringing out the flames at the top there, it does look really nice. And having the pole fit into the back works quite well, and you've got a lot of lovely detail at the back here too. Sort of reminds me of Swoop, which is kind of fitting since they're both prehistoric flight-based thingamabobs. I also love the blue on the wings. They're pretty nice too. My problem is that these wings kind of stink. They have this entire section to fold out. They could just have the entire wing fold out like that. But no, they just have to have these dinky little things fold out to the side like that, and they just don't look right at all. Plus, standing him is a pain in the ass. You want to stand him up, you move these up. Oh, nope, can't do that. You want to have him standing down like that? Yeah, not really. Kind of just sits on that. It's either all the way down here or diagonally like that. There's no in between. And for a Legends figure not to stand properly, that's not really great. Plus, the underside is pretty lackluster. I get why it's like this because of the budget, but just something in here, maybe making the detail a little bit better instead of putting the mold marks on there. Just no, come on, there had to be a better way to do this. Again, I get why they had to make sacrifices, but I think they made one sacrifice too many. It's not the worst thing ever, but it does kind kind of piss me off. Anywho, since we can't really get him to stand up, we'll have to have him lying down for the sizes, but he is 7.7 centimeters wide, and I suppose 5.5 centimeters tall, although he can't really stand up fully, which is a real bummer. Moving on to Smashdown, he is easily the most unique out of the Battlemasters. He is an incredibly unique transformer to begin with. I don't think we've ever had a Minotaur transformer before, and yes, it is kind of bipedal, so they can get away with it and do quite a few things, but it's still quite a novelty to have a design like this in the line. Really shows that they could have been really creative with this size class, but it just ended up being bogged down with a billion Target Master redecos. Woof. Now you do kind of have a bit of kibble at the back. You got a really big pole right there for other bots to hold on to, and of course that's supposed to be the tail, but it is a bit cumbersome. But for the most part, it's pretty clean. Head sculpt is lovely. I find it awesome how they gave extra blue on the horns to really bring them out. And the eyes are painted blue too, which is great. Even got some lovely highlights on the knees and the forearms here. Didn't have to do that, but it's great. The arms do have quite a bit of hammer kibble on them, but it really fits well into the design. Gives him big, meaty fists. Articulation is pretty good too, with a nice ball jointed head and ab crunch of all things thanks to the transformation, and ball joints here and there at the hips and the shoulders. Gets the job done. It's a really fun figure, and that's probably why they reissued it in Earthrise. Earthrise may have been pretty lazy with its Battlemaster lineup, but at least they reissued one of the best ones. Now when he's standing fully up, he is 4 centimeters wide and 5 centimeters tall. And finally, is it wrong or rang or ring? I don't know. This guy, you know who he is. They've really brought this design to life. Yes, he does not have articulated eyebrows, and that is a bummer, but given the price point and given the size, there's not really much you can do there. It's clear right off the bat that they prioritized the out of this robot mode, and they went all out. Lots of paint on the face, going right up to the forehead with that crest there. Painted eyes, painted face, extra layers of paint in the chest, both grey and blue. Yellow highlights, painted thighs. They've done a lot for this size. These are pretty cheap figures. They're basically Legion priced, so the fact that they've gone to all this trouble to make sure that this is potentially the definitive run, it fits for a lot of people, unless you want to go for the MMC version. Articulation's also pretty good with ball jointed shoulders and hips. Nothing special, but it's nice that we got both of them. Pretty good. Also forgot to mention he has a waist swivel from the transformation, although it's a bit hard to access with the backpack in the way. Anywho, for sizing, he is 2.7 centimeters wide and 5.5 centimeters tall. And I was actually finding it really difficult to get these all scaled up with the current camera layout, so I'll just pull back and do it all together like so. Here they are next to a standard Legion figure, a standard core class figure, a standard War for Cybertron Micromaster, and Crumbs. Now before we continue with this video, I've got one question. Where did I originally purchase these figures back in 2019? That's right, from today's sponsor, Robotoyz. Robotoyz is a very prevalent online Australian transformer retailer, specializing in mainline, selects, masterpiece, knockoffs, and third party, as well as a variety of other non-Transformers related action figures. Of course, these figures have been off the market for quite some time, but if you want to purchase anything more recent, don't forget to use today's sponsor code, DrLock 10% off, for 10% off a single order. This was actually one of the first figures I ever bought from them, so it's nice to kind of look back on all of this. Anyway, sponsorship message over. Back to the video. Now, the good thing about choosing these 4 individual designs is that they have very unique transformations when compared to each other, so I'm not just doing the same thing 15 goddamn times. For Lionizer, the tail folds out like that. The legs will peg together with that part falling into there like so. Not the most solid connection on the planet, but it gets the job done at least. And the head folds in, revealing the handle. Nice and easy. Pteraxodon is dead simple. You bring out the handle first so that you can then fold in the head because of the way that works. Then you line up the wings and line up the legs like so. Done deal. Axe done. My favorite transformation though would have to be Smashdown, because he is pretty fun. You want to rotate the head around 180 degrees and let it sit there for a bit. Rotate the waist inward like so. The arms rotate inward like that so that they're facing there, and the legs rotate inward like that so that they all click together. Not a transformation I have ever seen on any Transformer before, but it's nice, it's solid, it really shifts the mass, and it is a sweet hammer mode. Jesus, that is good. And Rung is pretty simple, basically what you'd expect from a Target Master, nothing special here. First thing you want to do is take the entire back half of the alt mode, and there we go. Folds out of his ass like that, with the arms then folding into it. Clip the legs together and rotate them 180 degrees so they don't look as much like legs. They still pretty much do, but it's nice that they tried with that at least. And we probably need a deluxe to show off these weapon modes, so let's bring in good old Fangry. I really like Fangry. I know you have have to fix the legs to get him to work, but I still really like him. Lionizer's sword mode is a bit goofy. You got this big chunk here that basically does nothing. Seems like a knife attached to a block more so than an actual sword. It's not the least cohesive sword I've ever seen. I mean, it's easily above the Unicron Trilogy Star Saber, but still, it's not the best. A fun little mode, but I wouldn't be picking it up for this. But I would be picking it up for one particular reason. Each of these designs come with blast effects, and Lionizer here comes with a sword swoosh effect. These were sadly phased out for Earthrise, but in Siege they went ham on these, and this is a really good one. Like, just look at that. That effect is lovely. And for this reason, you should probably pick up 2 Lionizers because they work exceptionally well with Siege Springer. I showed it off at length in the Siege Springer review, and it really brings the piece together in helicopter mode. Of course, I just got to make copies of these instead of actually buying them, but considering these guys actually go for $5 on the aftermarket these days, that's pretty cheap and pretty easily worth it for that blast effect. So yeah, not a great mold, but a killer accessory. Taraxodon kinda stinks though. I mean, he looks great from this angle, aside from the really conspicuous blast effects port there, which is actually supposed to turn this into a gun like that, but like, why would you do that? That is stupid. But with the blue paint, it does look quite nice. From this angle. Turn it around, and oh boy, that's just an entire pterodactyl sitting on the back there. Fantastic, not a great design. Once again, this feels like a design that the designers just didn't put their best foot forward with. They had a cool idea, but they didn't know how to execute it properly in this style. And sure, that's fine, not every Siege figure has to be an absolute winner, but it would have been nice to see this done much better, because the design and the idea is cool, just the execution is pretty off. Although I will say one thing, if you have Siege Soundwave, he does come with a sort of gun/pole accessory, which extends any of these. And that does make it look a little bit better. It doesn't fix any of the kibble issues, but it does kind of make this look alright. I mean, it makes anything look alright. It's just a really cool accessory that both Siege and Earthrise Soundwave come with. But if you can get your hands on this accessory, and you're getting your hands on one of these Battlemasters anyway, I highly recommend it. It just brings the quality up a bit for any Battlemaster you use it with, or any melee weapon for that fact. It's just a nice little add-on. But does it excuse Taraxodon here? Not really. It's still just mediocre. Below average. I just flat out do not like that. Even the blast effect it comes with is just kind of it just sits on there like so. Very hard to get in since it keeps wobbling around, but once it's on there, it doesn't really fit with the axe. It's kind of going for a smashing motion where the axe goes for a slicing motion. It doesn't really fit. Plus, it's incredibly specific. You can't use it on a lot of figures, so it's an easy blast effect to skip on an easy figure to skip. Woohoo. Smashdown, though, is one you absolutely shouldn't skip because holy shit, this is awesome. It's clean, it's concise, it's solid, everything fits together well. You can kind of see a few joints here and there, but it feels deliberate with the use of the bison head. Like it's a feature, it's part of the aesthetic. It works really well. Doesn't need a polearm to make it look better, but it looks even better with a polearm. It's a nice addition to it. But just paired up with any figure, it really looks great. Even the blast effect it comes with is awesome. It's a nice, simple boosh piece. Just goes boosh like that, like hammer down, stop hammer time. It's sweet. Like, look at that. That is just gorgeous. Fits in with the aesthetic too, unlike Taraxodon's blast effect. There's not much to say here since it's most of the robot mode detail just brought over to this, but it's an absolute worthy pickup. Whether for the Minotaur mode or for the weapon mode, it just works either way. Ah, mate, I really shouldn't have forgotten that. That's a fantastic mold. With Rung though, well, he's a little bit difficult to recommend. Since they're trying to homage that kind of bonkers, random piece mode that he had in the IDW comics, he ends up with this big, bulbous thing at the back here. I really wish they'd taken the 5mm port and moved it back so that you can peg onto deluxes very easily, but as it stands, it's a bit unwieldy to hold. And I do get it, they are trying to be accurate, but accuracy should only go so far. It does look pretty nice though. It's probably one of the best looking Target Master modes out there, and it comes with some great blast effects. These two kind of ice beam things. Sort of looks like the ice beams out of Metroid. I love Metroid. I've loved playing it this year. I'm just gonna hold this up to the camera because it's a bit easier. Once again, much like with Lionizer, if you're not really into Rung, you'll probably like these at least. The blast effects do make this set. Rung on his own, is just okay. If you love the character, you're gonna love this set, but if you don't, you're just still gonna love these. I don't know what to say, it's a pretty good release, and I just wish we got more unique and interesting ones like this. This lineup was sadly never going to be as good as the glory days of the Titan Masters. Those were truly amazing pieces of engineering with so much creativity put in. It was lightning in a bottle. This was just never gonna happen again. But at the very least, these were a step up from the Prime Masters. Taraxodon is a piece of shit. Honestly, just skip him. There's no point in getting him. He could have been amazing, but they fell short in the articulation, and the axe mode ain't that great. Lionizer, though, is pretty good. Definitely a worthy pickup if you're into the design. Personally, I still prefer the Netflix version, and that Netflix figure isn't that hard to come by on the aftermarket. But if you want one version, regardless of which version you get, it'll do. Smashdown, though, is a must-have. You owe yourself to pick up that figure. The weapon mode is fantastic, the robot mode is fantastic, the functionality is fantastic. It's just an all-around brilliant figure. And Rung is pretty good. For him, it's more the fact that the toy exists. It's not the best release in the world, but at least Hasbro was giving what the fandom wanted in this instance. Can't say I'm the biggest fan of the character, but people wanted a Rung for their shelves, and he'll do fine in most collections. Yeah, Deluxe probably would have been better, but what else could they really have done? So in the end, I understand, and I think this lineup is pretty fun. Not the best thing in the world, but not terrible either. It's a fun lineup. Just outside of Smashdown, it's not the most brilliant thing you've ever seen. Although tomorrow, I think it's time that we do discuss some brilliance that has been highly overlooked by the fandom. It's a video I've wanted to make for quite some time, and I think it deserves a full review. No Legendary stuff here, a full edited, full scripted hullabaloo. So tomorrow, let's return to the Cyberverse Battle class. I've been waiting for this.